Hi, I'm Doug from Dynamic Computing, and welcome to another episode of the Chickenhead Chronicles, my 8-bit show. The past couple of weeks have been in kind of a cool 8-bit experience for me. Some things have fell into my lap that I was not expecting and I wasn't looking for, and I want to share them with you. Started off a couple of weeks ago on eBay. Now, if you guys weren't aware, I love collecting Commodore 64 and Commodore 128 business software. I've got quite a collection of it. Let me show you a little bit of it right now, and then we'll show you what I found. Now, it's not the world's largest collection, but it's fun. We've got a microfiler, music processor, Commodore accounts payable and check writing, the newsroom. There's another file now, Commodore Financial Advisor, some font programs, Microsoft Multiplan, Swift Calc, Data Manager 2, Fleet Systems 3, Jane for Commodore 128, WordWriter, Partner 128, which is fun. So I've got a little bit of business software, but let me show you what I just got, and in a few minutes we'll take a look at it. What I picked up on eBay was Cosme's Swift Calc spreadsheet for the Commodore 64. Now, I have some versions of Swift Calc for sure, but they seem to be under a different name. TimeWorks is the name. So whether Cosme and TimeWorks are the same company, I really need to investigate that. But I love spreadsheets, which is weird. I use them weekly in my business, and I really enjoy goofing around in spreadsheets, and I really like the old Commodore 64 and especially the Commodore 128 spreadsheets. Comes with a nice manual, which modern stuff does not come with, that talks about all the formulas and how to use the spreadsheet, which is kind of fun. And I just get a kick off of hooking these things up and importing and exporting data from modern computers to it. It's really kind of fun. So $12 on eBay. Can't beat it. The next two finds, I have to give credit to my good friend David Z up in Phoenix. You might know him as Wide World of Retina. Wide World of Retina? Wide World of Retro. Sorry, David. But he and I are pals, and we get together every couple times a year. We try. We're really late for getting together and hang out and talk computers and play around with his equipment. But he spends a rather absurd amount of time in Facebook Marketplace finding cool things and then telling me about them. And when something shows up in Tucson, he'll send me a quick message and say, hey, this is for sale. Hey, this is available. Well, last week, he told me about some VIC-20 software that a guy was giving away for free. It just said free right on there. Kid's name was Josh, nice kid. Stopped by, picked it up, and this is some Hessware stuff. And from the look of it, I think this came from a school. There's some writing on each of the cartridges. It's a little hard to make out, but it gives me the impression that these were used in a school. PVCS, that probably means something. I could probably Google it. It's probably the name of the initials of a school here in Tucson. Kids on Keys. This one, Hess Writer. I'm looking forward to playing with that. If this is a word processor, I'll get a kick out of using an actual VIC-20 word processor. I've got one on tape, but I don't use it much. But cartridge-based word processor, and then save it to tape or save it to disk, that'll be kind of fun. So I'm looking forward to trying that. Yeah, property of PVCHR school, probably Christian school. PV, don't know, that doesn't ring a bell. So yeah, these are definitely from a school. And lastly, a copy of Trashman for the VIC-20, which I've heard of before, but I don't own. I've probably got 20, 25, maybe 30 VIC-20 cartridges. I love to collect those. And none of these I've had before, so that's cool. And the fact I got them free is awesome. These next two, totally useless to me. They were in the bundle of free software, free cartridges. These, I'm pretty sure, are for our good friend, the IBM PC Junior. And those of you who don't know, the IBM PC Junior sucked when it came out in the mid-'80s. Everyone I knew who used a Commodore 64 looked at it and said, that thing's an absolute joke, but now people think it's kind of cute. Personally, I still think it's a joke. But these seem to be Commodore, can't get my words right today. These seem to be IBM PC Junior cartridges. This one is a mystery cartridge because ain't nothing printed on it at all. Just a blank little cartridge thing. The label came off years ago. It's probably got, incredibly rare piece of software, only 3 made in all the world, and this is one of the only 3 copies. Probably worth $1 million, but it can be yours for the low, low price of $500,000. You're saving 50%. Get a hold of me and you can have this cartridge for $500,000. I'll probably put these 2 on eBay, and because I don't have any use for them. But if you have an IBM PC Junior and you have use of a basic cartridge and a mystery cartridge, just give me a holler and I'll make me an offer and we'll get something set up. So that's all fun and good. And in a few minutes, we're going to plug some of these cartridges in and make sure they work. But there's one other cool thing that happened in the last week. Again, David Z sends me a message to point out that on Facebook, Arizona Computer Users Group, which he and I are a member of. It's a not very well known group. There's like 30 of us on there, and I think there's probably 4 of us who even ever check it. But we do have big plans for it because someday he and I are going to create another Arizona Computer Users Group in all of our free time, of which neither of us have any. But he tells me, he sends me a message, said, "Hey Doug, there's a guy who just posted that he's giving away for free a VIC-20, a 1541, a tape drive, and some other accessories to anyone who wants them in Tucson who could really use them. Absolutely free." I'm like, can I afford free? And I got out my my Commodore 64 Swift Calc spreadsheet, and I got on my 64C, and I did some quick computations, and yeah, I could afford free. So I started talking to Darren on Facebook Messenger. He and I talked for a couple of hours. Nicest guy. All right. He and I decided to meet on Saturday. And turns out he was a collector from several years back. He started out as a kid. I think he and I are pretty close to the same age, grew up in the 80s, getting, VIC-20, Commodore 64, Amiga. He went about the same route that I did. Turns out in the 90s, he was working for Microbotics, which made some really cool memory expansions for the Amiga 1000. I'll put a picture up there. Some of the slot on the side expansions. I've got one. I've got a 2 megabyte Microbotics expansion board for my Amiga 1000. It's at my other house, so I don't have it with me. And he talked about he was involved at the time that they had the VXL accelerator cards that they were selling and some of the other cool stuff. I believe he worked in support, but Darren, if you're watching this, you can correct me if you're wrong, but I think he said he worked in the support department, which is really cool, being involved like that in the Amiga scene. But he started collecting years ago. He'd pick up some used Commodore 64s, Commodore 128s, VIC-20s, and it's just a nerdy collector like the rest of us are. Then he got busy with other stuff, and this stuff just sat in his storage unit for a long time without being really used. And a couple of years ago, he cleaned out his storage unit and he thought he got rid of all his Commodore stuff. And he sent a bunch of it, Commodore 128s, 64s, and a bunch of other stuff, to a guy in Ohio for the cost of shipping. Take it. Can you imagine that nowadays? Yeah, a couple of Commodore 128s, Commodore 64s, just for the cost of shipping. Those were the days, and those days are gone. But he had this one box left of goodies, and he just wanted them to go to someone who was going to take care of them and do something nice with them. I got in touch with him. I told him what I'd do. He says, "You sound like the kind of guy who's going to use them." Let's take a look at what was in his collection. Come with me. Let's take a quick peek at what we got here, and then we'll hook some of it up and see what condition it's in. First of all, we've got 5, count them 5, Commodore 1670 1200 baud modems. Now these are cool, and he was telling me about how he started out with a 300 baud modem and worked his way up to a faster one, and you bet, I remember those 300 baud modems. The text, you could literally watch it just writing across the screen, just zoop, zoop, as you're reading something online. Then we upgraded to an Amiga 1200 or a Commodore 1200 baud modem on my Commodore 64, and it's like zoo, 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 and you're just thinking, my goodness, how much faster can computers be than Commodore, 1200 baud modems? Now, with my 5 of them together, I figure I'll hook them up in serial, and I'll get connected at 6,000 baud. Oh my goodness, the speed. So these are kind of cool. They're nice. I think I own one of these already, which is kind of cool. Then we've got Commodore 300 baud modem. This is one of the original ones. This is an updated version. The one that came out for the VIC-20 was in a little different box, but it's pretty much the same thing. But you can tell it's an upgraded version because the actual box actually says for Commodore 128, 64, SX64, or VIC-20, which is kind of cool. So it's a newer model, but still 300 baud. Inside the box, Quantum Link User's Guide. Isn't that cool? And of course, Quantum Link was a partly Commodore owned. It wasn't even a BBS. It was a predecessor to services like America Online, and this actually became America Online eventually, where you could go in and join different groups, and it was a somewhat graphical interface for the actual Commodores that you could get online and browse things and do things. And this is a cool little fold-out manual that talks about what goes on in there. What do I need to connect with Quantum Link? All you need are a Commodore 64 or 128 computer, a disk drive, a modem, and Quantum Link software. How will Quantum Link affect my phone bill? In over 600 cities, you can connect to Q-Link through a local phone number. Each time you connect to Q-Link, the cost is the same as a local phone call. What are online messages and email? And again, this is the 80s, dudes. And, us Commodore 64 and 128 users were using email while all you guys were still, I don't even know if you got to the point where you're sending faxes. More Quantum Link information. Quantum Link user manual. Jeez, look at all this. This is cool. Oh, look, here's a little guide that goes on your computer. One for the 128 and one for the Commodore 64. A little helpful guide. Cool stuff, huh? Disk exchange form. And of course, the modem user manual. This is a 300 baud modem. This is all in English. You know how even if you get a manual nowadays that's this thick, it's because there's 6 languages, which is cool. There should be. But this is all in English on how to use your modem. Isn't that just incredible? All the information on there. Whack-a-doodle. Commodore 90-day repair warranty. I suspect I'm probably on day 88 or 89 right now of the warranty period. So if something goes wrong with it, I need to send it to Commodore right away because I think my warranty's almost up. Then, of course, inside here, look at this nice packing, is the actual Commodore 300 modem. This is the model 1660. Good looking one. Kind of matches the Commodore 64 beige, but not quite. It's a pretty close approximation to it. Now this is the cable. I don't know what all these cables do. I need to read the manual. But there's some cables that connect to the Commodore, and here's a RCA cable. We need to figure out what all those cables do and what they're for. It's kind of neat. And after a quick RTFM session, what these cables are for is so you can hear your phone ringing through your Commodore 64. It's just an audio cable that that plugs into the DIN on the back of the Commodore, and then plugs into here if you're using your TV as your display, or using this cable here to tap into your audio cable if you're using a monitor. and then it just sends the phone sounds straight to the Commodore 64, which is kind of cool. So now we know what all those cables are for. Let's take a look at what else we got. Here we've got a lovely little VIC-20. And when I say lovely, I do mean lovely. This thing's in pretty good shape. It's got some crud in the vents here, but not too bad. Looks like it may be a PET style keyboard. Keyboard did not feel particularly good. There's definitely some stuck keys. This thing's going to need a good cleaning. This is one of the more recent Commodore VIC-20s, as it does not use the 2-pin 9-volt power connection, but instead uses the standard Commodore 64 type power connection. Of course, you've got your one joystick port. No particular cracks in the back of the unit that I can spot. Looks in good condition all around. Serial number P1146940, made in the US of A. Very nice. So we'll pop this on the bench and see how she works in a few minutes. And look at this poor Commodore 64 box. This thing is a mess. Oh, the poor thing, but it still exists. And inside of it is a lovely bread bin. Can't go wrong with a lovely bread bin. You can see it had some cables wrapped around it. It's got the those burn marks from wrapping cables around it on it, but it appears to be in solid shape. All the ports seem fine here. This one has the 8-pin video DIN instead of the 5-pin of the very early model, so this is probably, you know, 83, 84, something like that. But physically, looks like it's in good condition. Now, take a look at the serial number here. This is a POO board that's inside of here. A nice POO serial number. Isn't that nice? POO 893537. We'll get this hooked up on the bench and see what kind of response we get out of it. Oh, I do notice that it's missing its little rubber footies there too. Those are easily replaceable. And last but not least, some nice Commodore 64 power bricks. I can't wait to just plug these in without even thinking about it and jamming inside the computer and turning it on and see what happens. Now, of course, I'm not going to do that. Now, I'm not going to do it because I think anything will happen, because I'd say it's about a 99.9% chance these are perfectly good and will probably last another 20, 30, 40 years. People get freaked out with the original power supply, saying they blow up your Commodore 64. But what I've found is it's mainly anecdotal. You know, oh, it happened to a friend of a friend of a friend. Well, has it ever happened to you? Well, no, but it's happened to a friend of a friend of a friend. These are 40-year-old power supplies. Some of them are not going to survive. Most of them did, and most of them survived just fine, which actually is pretty cool. Because these are in such great shape. Oh, this one's heavy. This one's like 20% heavier than the last one. It's probably for the VIC-20. Because these are in such great shape, I'll probably go ahead and put them on the bench and test the voltage and make sure that they work okay before I actually use them. But I do hook up all my equipment to a modern Commodore 64 power supply. We also have a couple of IEC cables. I think there were 2, maybe just 1. And then some video cables. Then we got a little data set here, came along with it. This also has the burn marks of the cable being wrapped around it for years in storage. It happens. It just adds a little charm to the unit. Eject mechanism does not eject it totally. Does not pop all the way up. Haven't had it hooked up to see if it works, but we'll check it out. If not, repairing these is simple. Sometimes they just need some new belts. Sometimes they need just a good cleaning. But yep, good old reliable data set. And we got one tape program. This is MicroEd Incorporated, Means Educational Software. And let's see what the tape is. Munch Math, Atom Ball, 1985. Looks like something somebody typed in because they did it themselves. Math Tutor, Atom Ball, 1985. Now, I am glad that this is a math tutor and not a spelling tutor or an English tutor, considering tutor is spelled wrong. But hey, that's okay. We're not here to judge. Just kidding, I'm judging. We've also got a nice 1541 drive that appears to be in fairly good shape. It even has the original Commodore head vibration protector, which guarantees absolutely nothing. Could still be all screwed up, but it's cool that it's actually in there. Still has the little Commodore clippy doodle right in there. So many of them that I have are missing this little thing that pops out. But the shape of the drive, perfect shape, weighs 8,000 pounds as always. Chances are it'll either work right out of the box or require minimal repairs to get working. Let's hook a little bit up to the bench and see what we're going to be dealing with. So here we've got the brand new VIC-20 all hooked up. The only thing that's hooked up is the power and the 5-pin video connector here. Let's go ahead and power it up, see what happens. Oh, we get a nice red light. And da-da-da-da, look at that. We have a nice display. 3,583 bytes free. That is too cool. And you can probably tell by the clickety-clack, I'm typing on this nice pet-style keyboard, and ain't nothing happening at all. Could be as simple as, I open it up and the keyboard connector is just disconnected for some reason. I mean, I don't know what kind of work's been done on these in the past. Could be a bad keyboard. Could be the flopziddle is not calibrated along with the quantum relay drive. I can pop this open and then check and see what's going on with this keyboard. Should be pretty easy to fix. But while I have the VIC-20 out, I might as well pop in one of these cartridges and just see if it responds. I haven't done any cleaning on the cartridges or on the VIC-20 itself. This is literally fresh. And of course, VIC-20 cartridges, sometimes they're notoriously difficult to get in and get out. Power it up. And absolutely nothing changed. That's the Hesswriter cartridge. Let's try it again. Kids on Keys. We'll take a look at that one. Okay, here we go. Hess presents Kids on Keys. I bet that's going to be exciting. Now, this will be so awesome to use considering none of the keys work on the VIC-20. That is going to make this an extra exciting game. But I'm just glad that some of these cartridges work. And I'll just clean all the other ones and we'll see what we can get working. Now here we have Mr. Melty, my Commodore 64 with the melted spots on it. But other than that, she's a beautiful little thing. I bet with a really, really fine grit sandpaper, you could kind of sand those down and at least make them less obvious. I know you're never going to get rid of them, but it may just make it more attractive. Or, it would be an interesting candidate for replacing the case, but it's not that bad. It just adds a little bit of charm to it. But let's go ahead and power this on and see if we get anything. No power light, but this is interesting. It does black the screen. Let's power it off. That's what it looks like with no signal. And that's giving it some signal. Now what that tells me is yes, the Commodore 64 is getting power. Yes, the VIC chip is getting power. It just isn't getting the right kind of signal to actually do anything like display. Could be a bad ROM, could be a bad PLA, could be a bad 6510, could be a bad VIC chip. Now I have some spare Commodore 64 parts, so we can actually do a little troubleshooting on this. But just for fun, let's plug in a diagnostic cartridge and see if we can at least get the symptoms to change. This is the dual diag dead test cartridge from our good friend Frank at Retro Rewind. You guys know Frank at Retro Rewind. He's the best. Here's the C64 diagnostic on one side of the cartridge and C64 dead test on the other. See, it's a dual-sided cartridge. Isn't that cool? So that's kind of fun. Now I have all of the harnesses for it too. You know, the serial and the parallel and everything like that. I've got all these, but no particular point in hooking these up. Instead, we're just going to try the dead test cartridge and see if we get any response out of it all. If I get response, then I can hook the rest of it up and we can see what's going on. Let's hook this up. So I've got the dead test cartridge hooked in the back. Let's take a look at what happens when we power it on with dead test. Huh, isn't that exciting? 0. Try it again. Okay. White screen, white scratching fleen. So the fleen is scratching. And when you get a fleen that is scratching, I believe that means something to do with the memory. Bad memory. That's flashing quite a lot though. I should probably have one of those strobe effect warnings so nobody has a fit. So that at least gives us an indication of where to start to look in here. We know the Commodore 64 has got a little bit of life to it. Power LED could literally just be burned out, could be disconnected. Somebody could have been trying to troubleshoot it. I could open this up and see that half of the chips are just simply missing. You know, just for laughs, just for giggles, let's go ahead and just open it up real quick and see what's inside. Oh, and looky here. She's got one of these incredibly high quality and highly sought after cardboard RF shields. Yeah, I'll be saving that. Those are really great. I love those, he says sarcastically. You know what? Inside of the board looks absolutely flawless. It looks untouched, and it's actually bright and shiny. Everything looks good. I was wondering if I was going to open it up and it was going to literally like be missing some chips or something like that. But nope, seems to be intact. Power LED seems to be intact. Now I've got this powered up right now. Sometimes if there is something very specific wrong with it, one of the chips will heat up far above and beyond its normal temperature, or the chip will be absolutely ice cold, which they're not supposed to be either. They're just supposed to be warm. And right now, here's the 6581, the SID chip. It is not socketed, and that seems to be a normal temperature. The CPU, okay, there's a little warmth to the CPU, but nothing special. Fine. The ROM chips are getting electricity. I feel warm. The MOS 6296-R4 at the end here is ice cold, where this one has, you know, the amount of warmth you'd expect. Nothing noticeable, but it's there. Let me check the RAM chips, see if any RAM chips feel like they're burning hot. Nope. This is not leading me anywhere. Ew. VIC chip, normal amount of warmth. Interesting, that didn't tell me anything, but I have faith that I'll be able to get this to work. May need to desolder some chips once I determine exactly what's bad. Maybe we'll do a show on this one. Now, just a cool little side note, one thing I noticed is when I unplugged and replugged the LED light, which was plugged in absolutely perfectly, but now the LED light is actually coming on, which is kind of cool. So I'm figuring while I have the screwdriver out, I might as well just open up this VIC-20 real quick and we'll take a look at it. Oh, don't break little plastic clips. They survived. And just like the Commodore 64, it's actually fairly clean inside. The bottom RF shield has a little bit of oxidation on it, but it's not too bad. The chips are in all good shape. Most of them are socketed, which is nice. And, you know, we fixed the LED on the Commodore 64 by unplugging and replugging it. Let's do the same to the keyboard cable. So unplug and replug the keyboard cable. I'm going to power it on, see if that makes any difference. Still a keyboard response, but considering the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20 use exactly the same keyboard connector and can use exactly the same keyboards, I'm going to steal this keyboard from the Commodore 64, plug it in, and see if we get any response. That'll tell us whether it's just a bad keyboard or something else. We've got power on the VIC-20, and take shift lock off. Keyboard works absolutely fine. Okay, this is good information because it means we don't have a messed up chip that controls the keyboard on the VIC-20. We just have a bad keyboard that we're dealing with. This is Doug from the distant future. I just want to fill you in on the keyboard for the VIC-20. I can't stay long as it could really interfere with the timeline. But what I did is I took my keyboard apart, all 8 million screws. You see all these little rubber glumpies there that make contact? Those build up with oil, dirt, and grease over the years. So what you want to do is you want to take a piece of bright white copy paper. See all those marks on there? That's from me going and rubbing each one. So you just take the key and you rub each one. I do it about between 16 and 25 times and make sure it gets some of that black stuff off. Once I did that on the keyboard and put the VIC-20 keyboard back together, the keys started to work. There were still some that were not working properly or had to tap them too hard, but so I'm going back and doing another cleaning. But take it apart, clean the little rubber grumplies on there. I also took the membrane and I cleaned it the same way with a piece of paper. Now you can use isopropyl alcohol, but my point is if there's any built up grease or oil, the paper works as a really fine abrasive to get some of that stuff off of there. And it seemed to work perfect. Let's hook up the keyboard and make sure. And now we have the freshly cleaned keyboard hooked back up to the VIC-20, and the keys work. Now I just need to go through and I need to test each one individually, make sure nothing's stuck, make sure they all work. But so far, we have got a recovered keyboard. I've done the same trick on my Amiga 1200 and on my pet computer, and it's saved the keyboard on both of those. This is Doug from the far distant future, signing out. Hey, that's not so bad, huh? White on the bottom, Commodore 64 brown on the top. It's like Neapolitan ice cream, just missing the strawberry flavor. No, don't worry, I'm not going to keep it like this. Now we have my Commodore 64 hooked back up. I took out my Ultimate 1541 cartridge out of it, and we've just got our new data set in there. And just for laughs, let's see what kind of response we get out of the data set. Munch Math looks absolutely fantastic. She's actually rewinding. That's actually a good sign. That means the belts are intact, the counter's going down. So listen to those lovely data set noises. She stopped. And then of course, if you want to run the first thing on the tape, we should be able to hit the Commodore key and run stop, and it says press play on tape. So that's what we're going to do. Screen blanks as it normally does on the Commodore 64 with a tape drive. It does not blank on the VIC-20. And we'll give it a second, see if it detects anything. And so I tried the second side of the tape and it found Math Tutor. It's spelled wrong in the title too. I thought it was just written wrong. We'll let it load up, see what happens. And look, it loaded up okay. Math Tutor works. Let's see, what's my name? Spiffy. Winkleton. Spiffy Winkleton, I'm here to help you with math. I'll give you 20 problems to solve, then your score, and then score your answers. I will give you a skill level to be used in our next class. If this is your first time in my class, try starting with a skill level of 1. If your skill level gets too high, you will be timed. Okay. And all it says is correct and wrong. Oh, I don't know. And it doesn't do anything. Correct. Wrong. That's a cool game. Now the 1541 drive I have a little less faith in. When you plug these in, you're supposed to hear the disc kind of spinning, the spindle kind of spinning, but all it does is turn on the red light and nobody's home. So I have a feeling that this one is probably just stuck, and I probably just need to open it up, maybe lubricate the spindle a little bit, get it spinning. I don't think it's going to work at all. We'll try it real quick. My SwiftCalc spreadsheet I got has a backup of it on it. I'm not going to try it with the original in case it screws it up, but we'll see what happens. All right, absolutely nothing. This is not going to work. Load. We'll just look at the directory. Okay, it sees the device, because it doesn't say device not found. Sees the device, which is good. Does absolutely nothing. Doesn't spin the disk. Yeah, this thing needs some TLC to get working. So all in all, I think it's pretty cool what I found. The SwiftCalc program, the spreadsheet, I'm going to have a lot of fun with, which I know sounds weird. You guys are playing Miss Pac-Man and Xevious on your Commodore 64, and here I'm working in a SwiftCalc spreadsheet and having just as much fun. So I'm enjoying that. I think that I'll have fun with these VIC-20 cartridges. Maybe I'll do a little show on them. I haven't done a VIC-20 show in a while. Maybe I'll do a little show on the VIC-20 cartridges I found. I'll use my working VIC-20. I think that it's going to be repairable, the VIC-20 that I have with a bad keyboard. Worst case scenario, I can scrounge another keyboard. I probably have a spare Commodore 64 keyboard someplace that I can just plug in and it'll work if I can't fix this one. Although it'd be nice to fix it because it's one of the neat looking ones. I'm just happy that the VIC-20 works and the actual keyboard interface works. We just need to fix the keyboard itself. The Commodore 64 is going to be a little bit trickier because everything is soldered in. I'll spend some time on that and see if I can narrow down a little more what the issue is. Maybe swap out a few parts that I can swap out and see if I can find where the issue is. But it's probably going to become a working Commodore 64. Absolute worst case scenario, if I can't get it up and running, it'll be great for spare parts. I mean, we always need a spare parts computer. My spare parts Commodore 64 is my original one that I had back in probably 1984, I would guess. That could have been sooner. But that thing stopped really working in probably 2001, 2002. That thing quit really working. And I've been using it for spare parts, taking keys off it, taking chips out of it, and using it to keep other 64s alive. I don't feel guilty about that. Mine. The modems, who knows what I'm going to do with those modems. I may put a couple of them up for sale on eBay if anyone wants to add them to their collection, $15 a piece, whatever. I already own one and I don't own a phone line, so owning 5 of them probably isn't going to get me anywhere. Really appreciate everybody who provided this, especially the ones who provided it free. That's really nice. I really appreciate it, and they did go to a good home. Big thanks to my patrons who are very helpful. You guys are absolutely awesome. If you're interested in joining my Patreon, pop on over to patreon.com/10mark, and for as little as $2 a month, you can support this channel and help me keep this stuff going. So thanks for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the equipment. If you have any ideas about the Commodore 64 and where I should start looking, shoot away. If you have any ideas about the VIC-20 keyboard and where I should start looking, let me know. Happy to get all kinds of new information. Like and subscribe, absolutely. I try to do one of these Commodore 8-bit videos every month, every 2 months. I try to fit an 8-bit video. Mostly it's Amiga stuff, but that's okay. But until next time, this is Doug from 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, off to get my math tutor on. And that's tutor, Tuter.